This is John for Johngy's Beat. I'm back on the beat, virtually on the beat. I've got author John Cosper. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am doing great, man. Nice room you got there. Is that your like mini man cave
Uh,
going,
this,
or?
it is. Well, this is one section of it here. It's the. I'll give you a look at the what's behind me here. I got the bookshelf on that side and a few things over there. Got a lot of photos, some posters on the wall. Get the angle. There we go. Some Black Panther Jim Mitchell, Dr. D. David Schultz, some of the other people I've written about, and some photos of folks I've run into. So this is kind of the wrestling office. If I were to turn this around, which I've got a couple wires plugged in, so I can't do it at the moment. I got my Star Wars corner right over there, and I got my James Bond and Spy corner over there. So all the
Very
obsessions
cool. You
are
got
down.
all, you got
The
all the
obsessions my
bases
wife
covered,
doesn't want
man.
on the main floor are down here.
Cool. So tell us, give us like a 1 minute bio on you. Up to how did you get to where you are?
Well, I've been writing since my freshman year at college. I actually started out writing for drama ministry, writing for the youth group at my church, writing skits, and did drama, and actually had my own theater company for a while, and probably close to 20 years was doing that stuff, and did some things with some schools, and I had gotten my teaching license, was hoping to actually pursue that full time, and when that didn't quite pan out, I was kind of looking for something new to do and a new challenge. And I've been a wrestling fan my whole life, and had thanks to a friend of mine who had moved in with me during my single days, he brought his entire wrestling library. I had discovered things like Mick Foley's "Have a Nice Day" and Bobby Heenan's book, and a lot of the other classics that were out at the time. And one day over lunch, I finally told my wife, it's like, I'm thinking about writing a book about the history of wrestling in Louisville, Kentucky, which is right across the river. We live in southern Indiana. To my surprise, she said, go for it. And I said, really? She said, well, yeah, you love this craft. You're a great storyteller, so why not give it a shot? I'm 21 books in at this point, about 7 years later. So it was a good call.
That's amazing. 21 books. That's very impressive. I've been on your website, eatsleepwrestle.com. I've seen the books. So let me ask you this: of all the wrestling books you've read, all the autobiographies at least, let's narrow it to autobiographies.
Okay.
What would be your top two or three?
Certainly, I think "Have a Nice Day" is one everybody ought to have in their library. One of the older ones I think people need to read is Luthez Hooker. Just a tremendous read about the old days and what it was like, and from the perspective of one of the greatest world champs of all time. Top of my head, I probably turn around and cheat and look here. I think. Bret Hart's book certainly jumps out at me. That was a really honest and raw. One I read recently I really enjoyed was Hornswoggle's. I thought
Oh, really?
his was incredibly well done. Great story, very honest, very funny at times, heartbreaking at other times. But I thought he and Ian Douglas did an exceptional job with that book. AJ
I
Lee's
haven't
is
read it
another.
yet.
Yeah, AJ Lee's is another one I thought I really enjoyed, and just such an incredible story that she had to tell as well. That was another one that really stuck with me.
Yeah, I agree with you. Her book was amazing. I met her at a book signing, and yeah, she's got quite a story. Let me ask you, not an autobiography, but have you read Mick's Tatum Brown?
I have not read that one. No.
That is an interesting book. It's twisted. It's good. It's got a lot going on. But anyway, so let's get back to how did you get involved with Girl Fight Wrestling? What is your association with Girl Fight Wrestling?
Well, when Bluegrass Brawlers came out, which was my first book, and that was basically told the story of wrestling in Louisville from 1880 all the way up till 2014. I started selling the book at some of the local shows and met Man Pondo, who was wrestling for Destination One Wrestling at the time. And really going to those shows, I kind of fell in love with independent wrestling. And my second book, which is titled Eat, Sleep, Wrestle, which is where the website name came from, was kind of a snapshot of indie wrestling at the time. And I interviewed about 20 or so different wrestlers, Pondo, Crazy Mary Dobson, Lufisto, Isaiah, Jamin Olivencia, Aaron Williams, Ron Mathis, just a lot of the guys and ladies that I was seeing at the time, and folks I could get in touch with at that time. But Pondo and I hit it off, and anytime I'd see him at a show, he'd always pull me over. I was like, hey, did I ever tell you about the time I met Paul Orndorff? Or did I ever tell you about the time this happened or that happened? And over time, I was like, this guy's got a lot of great stories, and he's just, I mean, he's got the biggest heart, and is one of the most giving guys I think in the business, and has done so much to help so many people without without receiving the thanks he deserves or the respect that he deserves at times. But I finally approached him one day. I said, dude, you need to write an autobiography, and you need to let me write it. And I finally coaxed him into doing it, and we released that about 2 years ago. But Girl Fight was kind of part of that story, and had started early on. And I started going to the shows to support him and to support Mary at the time, and have really kind of followed it since those early days. And not directly affiliated. I'm certainly not on staff with them or anything, but it's my favorite promotion. Of the ones that are the local here in Southern Indiana that I get to see on a regular basis, I enjoy going. I love. It was created specifically to give one person an opportunity to network with some of the more experienced and the veteran ladies that were out there. And of course, when things fell apart between Pondo and Mary way back then, he was ready to give it up, and it was Sue Young who pulled him aside and said, "What you did for her, you've done for all of us. You've given us a place to network and to meet other girls and to grow our network and to learn." And that's the cool thing about that promotion, and you could say that for Ohio Valley Wrestling over in Louisville as well, and certainly some of the other. Paradigm Pro is another one I could name around this area where I watched Ace Austin come up from a teenage rookie, and now he's one of the biggest stars on Impact. But I've certainly watched Crazy Mary Dobson evolve into Sarah Logan, and watched a number of other young ladies. Jordan Grace is another one, that I kind of saw over the years, who's now a former Impact World Champion. And, right now he's got Billy Starks coming up. He's got Charlie Cruel. He's got Ella. Big Mama just came back. Holly Cromwell, Sai Shin. It's just neat watching them grow, watching them learn, and watching the ones that were rookies at one time become the veterans and become the big sisters that are helping the other ones and giving them a hand up.
Now, do you like women's wrestling better than men's wrestling, or is it just because it's an excellent product there?
It's the product. It's the friendships as well and the connections. I mean, Pondo and I have stayed good friends, and he does his nightly walks on the Ped Bridge over here in Louisville, and I try to get out there a couple times a month to walk with him. And I go to support him. I go to support the ladies. I've gotten to know a lot of them and consider some of them friends. And Charlie Cruel and I collaborated on a book. Ella and I collaborated on a fiction book as well. So I mean that's really it. I mean, as far as what I watch Impact Wrestling, which coincidentally does, I think, have the best women's division in wrestling. If I had my druthers, I'd be watching all the time. If anybody from New Japan's watching this, you need a Roku channel, please, so that we can watch your product a little more easy. I could put it on my iPad and stream it to my Apple TV. It'd be so much better if I had a nice, easy, and the one on the Fire. I bought a Fire Stick. It's just no good. Give us a good Roku channel so we can watch New Japan here in America.
Sounds good to me. Pondo's interesting. I've talked to a lot of wrestlers. I've talked to a lot of people at Comic Cons, and Pondo's one of the few people that intimidated me before I met him. I heard the reputation, I saw him, but he is the most down-to-earth guy, the kindest guy. I've seen him take so many rookies in wrestling and just take them under his wing and just help out. The guy's a true professional and great guy. I can't say enough good things about Pondo. So anything that I could do to help promote Pondo and Girl Fight Wrestling, I'm going to do, because I love the guy. And I love the book, Memoirs of a Bad Man. Excellent book.
Thank you. It was fun. Yeah. It was I had done. It was actually the third autobiography I had done, because I just released Dr. D. David Schultz's right before that. But the first one I did was Kenny Starmaker Bolins, who was the manager. He was John Cena's manager at OVW. And if you know anything about Kenny, about 2/3 of what's coming out of his mouth is on the level, and the rest of it's completely made up. And good luck figuring out what it is. And a lot of wrestlers, you hear stories, and you're used to guys like Kenny, and you're thinking, yeah, right, I don't know if I can believe this or not. And the thing about Pondo's stories is just when you get into the point, it's like, okay, there's no way you were backstage at a Marilyn Manson concert having a contest where you guys both put, what was it, Vicks Vapor Rub.
Vicks Vapor Rub.
And he pulls out, well, here's the video on YouTube right there. So,
the thing that kills me, I was supposed to be there. I missed it.
Yeah, I remember seeing that right after it happened. I was like, "Holy crap! Like, what's going on now?"
I've seen Pondo do a handful of things, and over the years when he was at Resistance Pro, and yeah, he's earned his reputation, but he's still just the greatest guy out there, really.
He's the most
Now,
approachable guy on the show. I
you
mean, he
you
really is.
you brought up Charlie Cruel in your book. How did that come to be? Yeah, it's a fiction book based on her character.
Yeah.
So how did that come to be?
She came to me on that one. It actually, first fiction book that I worked on was with the Bomb Shelter, which is Joseph Schwartz, Randy West, and Zodiac. They were doing kind of a steampunk time traveler thing, and they asked me, "Have you ever written any science fiction?" I was like, "That's what I was doing before I was writing wrestling." So it was kind of a fun little project to do with them. And then Charlie approached me and said, "Do you want to write a horror story about my character?" And what happened with that, I actually pitched her one idea that she wasn't terribly crazy about, and we kind of developed the story on our own. And then I took the original idea that I had pitched to her, which was an older story that I'd worked on years before, and took that one to Ella, and which is how Ella's book, Wrestling with Madness, I think. Sad I don't remember the titles of my own books, but
Well, you got 21 of them, man.
yeah. But Charlie Cruel's his escape from VHS hell, and kind of the premise we came up with. She's a fan of the old '80s horror films, and what happens is basically a couple of guys, they find a VCR which turns out to be cursed, and they get their hands on some old VHS tapes of the classic horror films, and accidentally bring all these horror icons to life. And in order to, kill those maniacs, they have to find another maniac. So they pop in an old VHS of a Charlie Cruel film from the 1980s. She comes to life and she hunts them all down. And we don't name them by names, but you can pretty much tell, who Knifey Fingers and, Hockey Mask and, all the other characters are that we name in the book. And also shout out, we throw Tor Johnson from the old Ed Wood movies in there as well, because
Cool.
He's a pro wrestler. You got to have.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But it was a ton of fun to work with. Charlie is really creative and a lot of fun.
Yeah, she talked a little bit about the book, and I got to tell you, I really, I dig her character. I think she's a really talented. Well, and she's not the only one in Girl Fight Wrestling. There's, a bunch of them, as you mentioned on your website. But I really was impressed with her work, and she's young, and actually, you'll see tomorrow there will be an order for her book. I'm going to be ordering the book from you.
Awesome, man.
It's on tape, so I can't deny it now.
Use the coupon code ESW. You get 10% off. So
sweet.
You and anyone else. Yep.
Awesome. I will be putting that order in tomorrow.
Good deal.
So the what were your thoughts on this last Girl Fight Jawbreaker?
It was a great show. Really enjoyed the card top to bottom. The crowd was really into the early matches. It was there were 4 girls that I think Lily had been on a show before, and Bailey McRoberts might have as well. So they're not quite as familiar. Megan DeFrancisco kind of jumped out at me with just kind of her heel work and the way she was working the crowd and drawing some heat. I saw a lot of potential in her. The end of the first part of the show was Holly Cromwell and Sai Shin, and they just lit it up. I mean, they really, really put on an outstanding match. And these are 2 of the young ones that have been coming for a couple of years now that you're really starting to see them get it and really kind of take off. Big Mama returned. I think Big Mama is awesome. She's a fun character. A lot of fun to watch in the ring. She's just really entertaining. She had to take. This is a cool story. I don't know if you knew this or not. Her last match, way back before it was. I think it was last summer, but she was booked on a Girl Fight show and had just found out she was pregnant. She contacted Pondo. She said, "Hey, I can't work the show," and Pondo said, "Come on down, get your payday." And she came down, she made her entrance, and Charlie Cruel throws powder in her face, knocks her out, pins her 1, 2, 3. I was like, well, that was really quick. And then I found out afterwards what it was. So, but I mean, it just goes to show you what kind of guy Pondo is, and also how much love he has for the girls and for Big Mama. And then we had a great match with Charlie Cruel. We had a great match with Billy Starks. Nikki Victory wrestled Big Mama, and really kind of impressed me too. It had kind of reminded me of Maddie Max with the mouth that she had on her, and she and Big Mama kind of jawing back and forth. And I talked a little about the main event, but everybody came to see Mickey Knuckles versus Sue Young, which was like, oh, this is gonna be awesome and great. And Mickey Knuckles comes out, and then we get Susie instead of Sue Young. And first, I'm like a little bit. I'd be honest, I was a little disappointed. I love the Sue Young character, and years ago, first time I saw her live, I was taking my nephew, who was 17 years old at the time, to his first wrestling show, and Sue got thrown over the guardrail right into his lap. So she's also one of the nicest ladies you'll ever meet too. You know, away from the ring and out of character, she's a really, really, really very, very sweet lady. But Susie came out, who's her character right now in Impact. Excuse me. Pardon me. Should have brought a bottle of water like down like you did. But Susie's kind of this little girl character, and it's Sue. Sue Young is in there somewhere. It's like a multiple personality thing, but just the way not only Susie but Mickey kind of played this whole thing, because you're used to Mickey being very playful, very funny, playing off the crowd, abusing the heck out of the referee, and Mickey just wasn't herself. She's like, I don't know what's going on. This is not Sue Young. Who is this? I'm not going to wrestle this little girl. And Susie's like, but I want to fight. I want to do this. And, as they go on, Mickey's just pummeling her. And every time that hair comes down over her face, it's like she's got to brush it up. She's going to be Sue Young. She really kept you in suspense. And it's just like, when's she going to turn? When's it going to happen? Which is kind of what she's been doing on TV. But it doesn't come across on TV quite like it does live. So it's kind of a shame they still can't have a live crowd with Impact. But
right.
I came away really enjoyed the match and really enjoyed the character. Just a new appreciation for not the Susie character, but for the lady behind Susie and Sue Young. I think she's a tremendous performer. So, and then they set up for the next show. Of course, Charlie Cruel came out and interfered and hit Sue with a chair, and then made it look like Mickey had done it. So now Mickey and Charlie are lined up for the next show, and they've also got the Broad Brawl, which is going to be kind of like a Royal Rumble type situation for the Girl Fight Championship, which I guess has been vacated by Samantha Heights. And I don't know, not sure if you're familiar with Heather Reckless. She's about 4'9". She's a Seth Rollins student. I saw her in Vegas last year almost get her neck snapped off because she's so short. Somebody tried to throw her through the ropes and would just misjudge because she's so short. It snapped her neck back on the middle rope. She tumbled to the outside, stands up, shakes it off, and it's like, my gosh, that girl's tough. And there's also the video of the internet of somebody lifting, one of the guys lifting her over his head and throwing her out of the ring into a crowd.
I saw that one.
I'm excited to see her again. I think the Girl Fight fans are really going to enjoy her. I think she's got a lot of talent and a lot of heart, and I'm excited she's coming.
So is that a heel turn by Charlie, or is it just did she just want the match to fight with Mickey?
It's kind of nebulous. I mean, I don't know that Charlie gets cheered because she's local to here. Everybody knows her. And her character's kind of evolved a little bit too. She's doing this kind of the high. It reminded me a little bit of Eugene, almost a little bit of Susie, the Bray Wyatt, dual personality type thing. She comes out, "Hi, do you want to be my friend?" And then she goes into her psycho kind of back and forth as Masuku, her mask, kind of leads her. But so I think it definitely some character growth to her. The crowd's probably going to be split. It's going to be half Charlie and half Mickey. They'll all fall on Mickey's side ultimately, unless Mickey doesn't want them to. So we'll see. Mickey's one of those that, even though she's one of the most popular wrestlers in this area, she's from Clarksville. And actually, I don't know if it's my wife or my son was on a website and they were looking up the most popular, famous person from different towns. And Clarksville, Indiana, it's Mickey Knuckles why not? She's a great talent. Even if she's an indie star. But and anybody watching this, if you haven't seen Mickey Knuckles and you see her pop up on a card, go see her. She's worth $10. She's worth 15. She's worth 20. And just to see her, she is entertaining as heck. And so yeah, but I guess we'll see how the crowd falls and how Mickey and Charlie steer them.
No, I agree totally with you about Mickey. She was another one that kind of intimidated me just because of her reputation too. She's a pretty big name, and I was going around asking for interviews and stuff, and she grabs me and she goes, "Well, why aren't you doing me?" And I said, "Well, you're kind of a big name. We weren't introduced yet." And she was, "Oh, let's go back and do one." And from then on, she was like the coolest person, and her too. I just saw her just like Pondo. I saw her just take the younger women wrestlers and men wrestlers and just give tips and everything without asking, but without being pushy. She's just a great veteran, and she can still go in the ring. I
Oh,
mean,
absolutely.
she's
Yeah.
not old by any stretch, but she can
Mm.
still go in the ring.
No, and she's like I said, she puts on a great show. She's just fun to watch, and she makes you smile. And Sean, referee Sean, who man bun around her, if she's in the ring with him, she's just gonna abuse him the entire time. And just it is. I always when I see him coming out, I know Mickey's coming. I was like, okay, I'm getting double for my money on this one. So.
So that show is going to be October 17th.
October 17th at Park Memorial United Methodist in Jeffersonville, Indiana.
To the Girl Fight Wrestling Facebook page,
Yep.
or I believe it's girlfightwrestling.com.
Girlfightwrestling.com will get you there. Yep.
To get all the information on that. I'll be covering it on my site. I'm sure you'll be covering it on yours.
Mm-hmm.
So before we close, give all your plugs. Let's talk about, tell me about your site. Tell me about whatever you want. Throw your website name, Facebook, whatever you want out there, sir.
Sure. My website is eatsleepwrestle.com. You can order a lot of my books directly from the website. And as we mentioned earlier, coupon code ESW will save you 10%. I'm on Facebook. You can look for Eat Sleep Wrestle. You can find me on Twitter at John Cosper. You can find me on Instagram. It's John Cosper Author. My latest book, I actually have a copy of it sitting right here. If you're into ladies wrestling, The Ballad of Cousin Elvira. Elvira Snodgrass was Mildred Burke's #1 rival. She was the #2 lady in the 1940s. Her story was lost to history. She died in 1956 of a heart attack. She had actually had to retire in 1952 after losing her arm in a car accident. And again, she died early. She was one of I think she was the first of that generation to go. Mars Bennett died a year later in a car accident as well. But I mean, history is written by the victors and it's written by the survivors. And when, the WWF gave, Moolah and May the opportunity to write women's history in their image, they certainly took it and ran with it. And not to take anything away from either one of those, but I mean, May wasn't the star that Elvira was. Neither one of them was the star that Mildred was, and neither was Elvira for that matter. And you want to talk about the women's wrestling revolution. I mean, back then they were working 2 out of 3 falls every night. They were the draw. Mildred Burke, Elvira Snodgrass, or Mildred Burke and any of the other ladies. He put them in there. And, Mae Weston, Mae Young, you name it. I mean, Mildred was the draw. But Elvira worked a lot of those 2 out of 3 falls matches. She was one of the first to kind of create a character with this cousin Elvira persona. Even before the Gorgeous Georges and the Lord Lansdowns really started to take off and everything. But it's just a fascinating story. She's a character that I always was always interested in. We're going back to my first book. Some of the other books you'll find on my website. I've got Dr. D. David Schultz's autobiography, Tracy Smothers. Everybody say a prayer for him. I just heard that his health's taking another turn for the worst. We'll see what happens with him. Yeah, I hate to hear that. But Tracy's book is up there. Scott Romer, wrestling photographer, is up there. Man Pondo's book. I'm going to forget somebody. Hurricane J.J. McGuire, who was Jimmy Hart's songwriting partner. I wrote his autobiography. The original Black Panther about Jim Mitchell, the first African-American superstar in pro wrestling. 2 books about Louisville wrestling, and of course, Charlie Cruel's fiction book, Charlie Cruel Escape from Vhs Hell. You can find all of that, eatsleepwrestle.com. And again, use the coupon code ESW. A lot of them are available on Kindle, and they're also available on Amazon. So come and find me.
Well, I recommend people do. I found you on your website. We've talked on the internet several times, and it was good to finally talk to you. I love to revisit you, man, because there's just so much material. I could talk to you all night, but I'm sure you got other things to do at some point.
Hey,
I would
I'm
love
happy to talk anytime. So anytime.
I'd love to revisit
talk
you,
Girl
man.
Fight. We can
This
talk
is a blast.
just wrestling in general or sports in general. So
we'll do it, man. We'll do it before the next show or directly after it. We'll talk about Girl Fight Wrestling October 17th, and we'll talk about EatSleepWrestle.com.
That sounds good. I might be ready to announce my next book as well, which is making its headway. Not ready to drop the name yet, but it's one that the guys of my generation, it's everybody's going to want to grab this one. So I'm excited about it.
Well, I can't wait to hear it, man. I know you will give yourself the scoop on Eat Sleep Wrestle, but I'm hoping that I can get maybe the second one.
It depends. I'm close. I'm real close. So.
All right, John, man, it's been a blast talking to you. I will talk to you soon, and I really appreciate your time. Everyone, check them out. EatSleepWrestle.com.
Thank you guys very much.